Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Erin Molan Show. It's so great to have your company. Yes, a little bit different looking again this week. I'm traveling, but nothing else changes. We've got a massive show for you off what's been incredibly big news over the past 24 hours regarding the Middle East and potential peace in the Middle East. My guest today is Amichai Shikli, who is the Israeli Minister for Diaspora Affairs, an incredibly articulate man, really super smart, really knowledgeable, particularly when it comes to history. So I didn't want to talk to him and ask him questions and let's do commentary on what's occurring now. What I wanted from him was a history lesson. Succinct, to the point, not boring, factual, try that on for size. I wanted him to give all of you who care, who are smart, who are invested, but may not fully comprehend how we got here. And there's no shame in that. I've learned so much since October 7. I didn't know it all. Most people don't, but this gives you a really basic overview of what has occurred and why we are here, including how many opportunities those in Gaza have had for peace, handed to them on a platter, over and over again. And on each and every occasion, the outright rejection of that from those in Gaza. So you need to understand that this is not something fresh or new. This is something that Israel has been dealing with for a very long time, a very long time. And when the charter of a people who live on your doorstep is to destroy you, when that is their number one priority, this is not a normal war. This is not fighting a small section of people who are evil. It's fighting an ideology. It's fighting a group of people who from birth have it hammered into them that Israel and Jews are evil and bad. Therefore, any killing, any hurting, any destroying is just and good. That is what they're dealing with. So I wanted Amichai to come on the show and take us back. An overview absolutely would take years to go through the intricacies, but I think this is really valuable, and send it to your friends as well, people who might not understand. I think this gives them a really good overview, so we'll get to him very shortly. But first I wanted to talk a little bit about President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu and this historic peace deal and why it is so special and so different. And of course, yes, we're still waiting on certain things to fall into place. But have a quick listen to President Trump and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu at their press conference. And then I'm going to come back and point out a couple of things that I observed and why I am cautiously optimistic. It's a term my father used to use all the time. But have a listen, have a look.
So this is a big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. Things that have been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. We're at a minimum very close, and I think we're beyond very close. And I want to thank Bibi for really getting in there and doing a job. We've worked well together, as we have with many other countries, both of us, with many other countries, which is the only way this whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East. And let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. So this is far more than anybody expected, but the level of support that I've had from the nations in the Middle East and surrounding Israel and neighbors of Israel has been incredible. Incredible. Every single one of them.
Remember October 7th, and we do. We will never forget the horrors of October 7th, and we will do whatever is necessary to make sure they don't happen again. Since October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price, but those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples. President Trump just said it. It's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed. And that's actually what is happening. We want the blessings. I think we've done a lot in the past 2 years to end the curse. We're not finished, but we've done a lot.
To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed, not at my request, believe me, I'm very busy, but we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States. That's what I want, is some extra work to do, but it's so important that I'm willing to do it, and we'll do it right, and we're going to put leaders from other countries on, and leaders that are very distinguished leaders, and we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, good man, very good man, and some others, and they'll be named over the next few days, and it'll be quite the board. Working, everybody wants to be on it now. I don't know if that had anything to do. They named me and everybody else wanted to be on it. I guess they figure, well, he's a soft touch. He'll be easy to deal with. Working with the World Bank and others, it will be responsible for recruiting and training a new government that will be made up of Palestinians along with highly qualified experts from all around the world. Hamas and other terrorist factions will play no role in the board, but they'll play no role in the governance of Gaza at all, directly or indirectly. As you know, thousands of Hamas leaders have been killed and soldiers have been killed. And we can never forget October 7th, but thousands have paid the price for that. We're right there. We're right there. First time in thousands of years, I think you can probably say, if you really look into it, if you study back, if you're a scholar, you would say thousands of years. Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. But I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. I think it's a very popular thing you do because he's a warrior. He doesn't know about getting back to a normal way of life, but he is a warrior, and Israel's lucky to have him.
So President Trump mentions a lot of different countries who have given their essential full support to this. That is key. For there to be any version of peace in the Middle East, it cannot just be Israel and, Hamas, the Palestinian Authority. It's got to be everyone. It doesn't work without the support of everyone. And so far, those that have given their full endorsement of this deal include Egypt, Jordan, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, UAE. Now, I, of course, do not feel the same way President Trump does in the ways that he describes the leaders of some of these countries. I consider them to be evil terrorists, but that is okay. We need them on board. It doesn't matter how you feel about them. We need them on board. They are required for this war to end and for there to be any hope of peace. So their buy-in is crucial, and he's got it. That's a big deal. Indonesia has also publicly expressed full support and confidence in this deal. That's a big deal. President Prabowo spoke at the UN. They are the country with the world's largest Islamic population. This is a big deal. A big deal. When we look at what has gone on in the background to get here, and it will come out over time, but some of the conversations, some of the dealings, Jared Kushner, Witkoff with Bibi for 6 hours. And Jared Kushner's key here, by the way, a really, really key player. This is, I'd say, as close to his life's work as anything else. And yes, he's incredibly successful. Yes, he's got a beautiful family, beautiful wife. But his passion for peace in the Middle East, the hours that he has invested into this, the research, the planning, he has done so much. And a friend of mine was telling me a little while back, when Kushner comes back in, you know we are close. You know we are on the doorstep of peace, because he is probably the most qualified to help lead it. Abraham Accords, or as Donald Trump now calls them, the Abraham Accords.
Negotiating the Abraham Accords. I like to say it that way because the real people, that's what they call Abraham. I would say Abraham, but it's so much nicer when you say Abraham. So much more elegant.
He was a huge part of that. And he's done so much work in trying to help figure out what Gaza looks like post, not just this conflict, but in a way where it flourishes, in a way where terrorism doesn't define it. And he has the contacts, the resources, the knowledge to help in such a big way. So when I'd seen that he was in a meeting for 6 hours, I thought this could be it. This is as close as we've been, because we've had different iterations of these kind of deals and proposals since October 7, and you kind of take them with a grain of salt. This one feels different. Feels different. I mean, try telling that to the protesters who are outside the White House, the Free Palestinian protesters. Hello? I thought you wanted peace. I thought you wanted a ceasefire. I thought you wanted an end to the suffering. I mean, not of the Israelis, we know you couldn't care less about them, but of those in Gaza. This will give them that. This will end the suffering. And not only will it end the suffering, it will ensure they don't continue with the cycle of it. So in another year, 2 years, 5 years, there's not going to be this situation again. Isn't that what you want? Or, and God forbid, are you upset that Hamas might be destroyed now? Are you upset that your heroes might not have a place in this new Middle East? Because there's only one real loser here, and that is Hamas. So if you're protesting a deal where the only real loser is Hamas, then that says to me that you're devastated at the prospect of losing them. You're boy crushers. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Stop exposing yourselves. It's cringe. Stop embarrassing yourselves. This is a peace deal and the closest thing to peace in the Middle East that we've potentially ever been. Before I get to this conversation with Amichai Shikli, I want to talk to you about Charlie Kirk's letter. Remember, right after his death, Candace Owens and Tucker and all of them came out and said, he's written this letter. He's written this letter to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and if this letter were to ever be released, this is so bad for Israel. He hates Israel now. He hates Bibi. It's all in this letter. Bibi's misrepresenting this letter. Have a listen to what Bibi said about the letter.
Was an extraordinary friend. He said, he wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization.
Now read the letter in full. It's 5 or 6 pages. It's online. I'll link it to my socials. read it in full, and you tell me if that is the letter of someone who hates Israel and hates Bibi, or if that is the letter of someone who loves Israel to the extent that an incredibly busy, highly successful, doesn't need this man, pens a 5-6 page letter trying to give Israel suggestions on how to counter not anything that's truthful, but false propaganda. So his issue isn't saying, oh, Israel, you're doing the wrong thing. You're so bad. You're losing support because you're doing the wrong thing. He's saying, Israel, you're losing support because of the efficacy and the sophistication of the huge network of terrorist propaganda that's against you, but that is gaining traction, that is having an impact. That's what his letter was. It wasn't saying you guys suck and you're losing the moral high ground and you don't have, the right. He's saying the opposite. He's saying because you do have the moral high ground, you do have the right, you need to be better at countering the false propaganda, the terrorist lies that are spreading, particularly with young people. And it's not a secret to say that Israel don't get PR right. In many regards and respects, they are horrendous at it. I've had very similar experiences. I was reading Charlie's letter and thinking, yes, yes, yes. I look at the example, and I've said this before, of the child on the front page of New York Times. And straight away, I knew that something was not right. Straight away. And I'm messaging high-level contacts in Israel, ministers, very important people high up. And I'm saying, guys, can you give me something so I can go out on this? So I can counter this. This kid is not starving. Something isn't right. Look at the mother. Surely you must know this child is sick. Can you give me something? Nobody had anything to give me. 2 days later, a private media company had the exclusive on who this child is. That can't happen. The government is incredibly clever. They have resources. They have everything. They need to be coming out straight away and helping the people trying to help them fight this. That was so frustrating for me. I could not believe that nobody in Israel could give me information that could shut down that falsehood. And it was so clearly a falsehood. So it was days later that they came out. And you can't afford that in this kind of battle. So what Charlie was doing was the greatest act of love you can give someone and you can show someone, which is brutal truths and honesty and then suggestions. He wasn't doing what a lot of people do, which is poke holes and point out your flaws. He was giving very good suggestions on how they could improve because he loves and cares so deeply about Israel, and they don't deserve the way the world is viewing them at the moment. It's not justified. It's not true. But there is a problem. So, Candace and Tucker and the like trying to insinuate that this letter was, going to be this major revelation that Charlie had turned and suddenly thought Israel was evil and Bibi was, a terrorist and whatever else. Completely false. The complete opposite. Because he loves Israel so much and he loves the Jews so much. He wanted to help. It's an entirely different thing. These people are so compromised. So deeply compromised. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always. Please enjoy this 20-25 minutes with Amichai Shikli that gives a great summary of how we got here. It is so important to be across. Please have a watch, have a listen, and I'll be back straight after. Minister, thank you so very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's good to be with you, Erin.
I don't want to talk about what's happening now for once. I want to talk about history and I want to talk about the facts. I want people who aren't like you, who lives and breathes this every single day. This is your life. This is your country. This is your people. I want people who aren't like me, who are heavily invested, live and breathe it every day, but don't know the history as intensely as you do. I want people who are curious but don't have the facts or the details to watch this and understand. Can you talk to me about the history of the... Oh, my God. Sweet Jesus. I'm so sorry. Let's start again.
Okay.
So make a good bloopers reel. Okay. Minister, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Begin. I think we should begin with the words. When we are saying...
I found it. You can do it now. I found it.
I'm so sorry. I might cry.
That it's family, so she can interrupt. It's no problem. It's no.
This will be it. I promise. She's now happy. She's got her game. Okay.
Okay.
Minister, thank you so very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Can you spend 15, 20 minutes with me just giving me a basic, succinct, to the point history of why we are where we are at today in the Middle East?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and one of the greatest challenges we have is to make sure that the younger generation learn and knows the basic facts, because today, people don't read that much books and don't get deep into the details. Everything is very fast, and that is one of the greatest challenges when we are speaking about the conflict. So I think we should start with the names. When you say Israel, you're actually saying the name of Yaakov, one of the founding father of the Jewish nation, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Israel and Yaakov is one. The name Palestine got nothing to do with Arabs, and it is actually quite an ancient name. And it was invented in the year 132 and 135, when there was a great rebellion of the Jewish people here in Israel against the Roman Empire. It was a huge rebellion against a huge army of the Romans. It is a very big event in our history. 1 million Jews, according to the historical estimations, were killed in the battles, in fires, diseases, etc., etc. And despite the fact that the rebellion at the beginning was very successful, it ended up in a defeat, led by Adrian Caesar, and Severus was the chief of staff of the Roman army. Back then, the name of the land of Israel that we know today was called the province of Judea. Judea, because of the tribe of Judah from the Bible, the Jewish people. And then Adrian said, you know what? We are now going to expel these people to other parts of the Roman Empire. You're also going to change the name of the province so that even in 100 years or 1,000, or as we know, after 2,000 years, they would like to come back to the same land. No one will remember that once it was the province of Judea. So we call it province Syria, Palestina. Syria, Palestina. Now, what is Palestine? Palestine in the name of our sworn enemies from the Bible, the Philistines, colonizers that came from Greek into the southern part of Israel today. Gaza, Ashkelon, Kiryat Gat, all these places were the Philistines region. The Philistines and the Palestinians of today, they have nothing to do with one another. It is a Greek people that came during the biblical era, and that is regarding the name.
Yes.
And we can move on and ask
Please
ourselves, when does this conflict begins, actually, okay? So when you learn even the history from Palestinian history books, the earliest stage is 1920. After World War I, there are the agreements, Sykes-Picot agreements, France and Britain, the empires that won the war, divide the Middle East into regions of influence. And you have the region of what they call mandatory Palestine, that was created after World War I upon the Ottoman Empire controlled area. And it is very significant to remember there was never a Palestinian state. Never. The Arabs who lived here, they didn't call themselves before World War I Palestinians. Never. It is a new term that was developed after World War I. Now, what happened? At the beginning, the Arab leaders here, who obviously rejected the idea of a Jewish state, that also came up after World War I with the Balfour Declaration, and not after the Holocaust, as many people think that Israel was established because of the Holocaust. No, no, no. Israel was established despite the Holocaust,
Yeah.
because we have lost 6 million people, among them hundreds of thousands of young Jews who dreamed to go into Eretz Israel, to go to Israel, and we've lost them forever. So going back to World War I, the Balfour Declaration, Arabs who lived here resist to the idea of a Jewish state. It said it's an Arab land, it is a Muslim land. And I think it's very crucial to understand that, because it's not about Palestinian national identity. Way before, it is a religious conflict. How can we tolerate Jews coming and taking on the land? How can we tolerate Jews coming to an Arab land? This is before we are speaking about a Palestinian identity. So it's very, very important to understand that. At the beginning, the local leadership, the Arab local leadership, their vision was to create a greater Syria. So that was the vision. We want to be part of Syria. You had demonstrations, letter sending from Arabs leader here in Israel and saying, we want to be part of this greater Syria. But as we know, the France rejected the idea. There was the part of mandatory Palestine that created Jordan, and then the other part, which is now today Judea, Samaria, and the entire state of Israel. And this is crucial to understand, crucial, because when you think about it, there's actually a Palestinian state. Because Jordan was established on more than 70% of mandatory Palestine. The population, vast majority, more than 75% are Palestinians. So technically, you already have one Palestinian state. It's called Jordan. The flags are very similar. Palestinian flag, Jordanian flag, almost the same flag, just this little star that separates between them. And in terms of population and the land, it is part of mandatory Palestine. Now, let's move on. There is no greater Syria. Arabs who lives in Israel are rejecting, opposing to the idea of a Jewish state. And they're saying, okay, if there's no greater Syria, we need to speak about Palestine. That's 1920, and this is the exact moment when the conflict between Zionism, national movement, and Palestinian national movement begin. 1920 is the very beginning, the ground zero of the conflict. And the first clash is in Passover, 1920, where you had demonstration led by the local Arab leaders, and it's very important to understand who are these leaders. One specific family created the Palestinian national identity. They were not alone, but they were the leading part for centuries. Musa Kazem al-Husseini, who was the mayor of Jerusalem, and we are very well familiar with his relative, the Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini, who will later on became the leading, the Ben Gurion of the Palestinians. So it was Musa Kazem who said, there's no more greater Syria. Now we need to speak about Palestine. And in Passover 1920, you have the first wave of violent clashes of Arabs against the Jews in Jerusalem, with the first casualties of the conflict. And this is extremely a difficult moment for the Jewish community that was not prepared for it. So that was a defining moment. And from this moment on, there was like rounds, and you had the same pattern going on time and time again. The next 1921, this time Tel Aviv and Yafo, with a famous author, Yosef Chaim Brenner, who was murdered. Devastating moment. The biggest wave was 1929. Hebron, a huge massacre. 69 people are being slaughtered with axes, with knife, being burned, being mutilated. The community, Jewish community of Hebron, was destroyed. And they evacuated to Jerusalem. Same happened in Tzfat, up north, Jerusalem. In Mozart, an entire family was burned. Only one baby survived. His name was Mordechai Maklev, who later on became the chief of staff of the IDF. This is 1929 riots. All these cycle of violence were started by the Arabs, and up till 1936, which was what the Arabs called the Big Rebellion, okay, of 1936, 1939, the Jews actually, they didn't have the organization to respond to these massacres, pogroms. Also, it's important to understand these are not Arab units who are coming with guns and shooting the Jews. We are speaking about a mob that is going into Jewish small communities, and it's a massacre. It's a massacre. And it changed in 1936, 1939, because back then the Jews created organization to defend themselves. The Haganah and the smaller organization like the Etzel that later on created the IDF. This last great rebellion ended in 1939, and we know how it ended with World War II starting. And this is very crucial to understand. In 1939, right before World War II starts, the British are closing the gates of Israel for Jewish immigration, saying in the next 5 years, the limit will be 75,000 refugees, and that's it. So at the darkest moment, Britain abandoned the Jewish people, locked the gates. And that was so devastating. And we had Chaim Weizmann saying, in our darkest hour, you turn your back on us to appease the Arabs. And we can see the same patterns in global diplomacy also today. So that is the very short history of the beginning of the conflict.
Yeah. So let's go forward now to when you give them their own ability to rule, self-determination within.
There's one stage before, which is crucial. Obviously, 1948. Okay. The World War II ended. In World War II, there is a dark chapter of the Palestinian leadership that no one speaks about. The leader of the Palestinian national movement, Haj Amin al-Husseini.
Yeah.
He was leading during the war a rebellion in Iraq against the British. It's called Rashid al-Kalani Rebellion. From then, he escaped, first to Lebanon, then to Europe, arrived to Berlin. We all know the famous picture of the Mufti and Hitler, but it was not just a meeting. He got a job. He was paid government salary. He had a car, a suite, and he was in charge of Nazi propaganda all across the Middle East, led by, how they call him, the Mufti from Jerusalem, the great leader of the Arabs. Okay? That's how he was seen by Nazi Germany. Yeah. Later on, he established SS units from Muslim minorities in back then Yugoslavia, okay, Bosnia, etc. These troops served with the Nazis as part of the SS units. This is all documented history, and that is extremely important to understand that the leader of the Palestinian national movement was a major ally of Nazi Germany. And it is very, very important to understand that because of his role, Nazis became super popular in the Middle East. Yeah. They became popular in Egypt, in Iraq, in Palestine. And that is the part that Palestinians always tend to put aside.
Yes, they don't want to be
intrinsically
they don't connected with the Nazis, but they were.
They were like this with the Nazis, as one. So the war ended. We have lost 6 million people. And I want to again say, the State of Israel was established despite the Holocaust.
That's
and
crucial.
Not because of the Holocaust. In terms of international recognition, diplomacy, we had the Balfour Declaration, we had the San Remo agreements, and when the British received, the mandate on Palestine, there was a condition to create the conditions for the establishment of a Jewish state. That was their mandate. So that was their mission.
Yeah.
And going back to the Holocaust, we cannot say that entire 6 million Jews were Zionist. Many of the Jews that perished and were murdered in the Holocaust, they were not Zionist, okay? Haredi communities, communist, etc. The Nazis, they didn't care if you are from the left, Haredi, or a passionate Zionist.
They didn't discriminate, did they? As long as you were a Jew.
We received the same treatment. But as I mentioned, we had hundreds of thousands of youth in various national movements, and we have lost them. And it was amazing. Ben-Gurion said, we always asked as a nation, when will this nation have finally a state, a land? We never thought about the question if we're going to have people for this land. And that is that is the Holocaust. And people tend to forget that and to say, okay, because of the Holocaust, you have a state, as if the Holocaust was something positive. There is nothing.
I've never heard that
positive.
point made the way you're making it. That's really
There is
significant.
nothing positive regarding the Holocaust. Zero.
No.
We had the recognition from the League of Nations. Before, we had the Haganah and the Security Organization. Before, Tel Aviv was the largest city in mandatory Palestine. Long before, we had industry. We had all the parties, almost all the parties that exist today existed before World War II. A state within a state. That's how the British called the Jewish community that lived here before the recognition and the establishment of the State of Israel. And now, the war ended, major drama, refugees, how do we bring them? Exodus, the huge boat that came, and then the British took her back to France, and from France to Hamburg, to the same place, to Germany. It's a huge balagan. We were all over the news. In 1947, there was the UN was a major conference, and there was a vote to recognize the State of Israel.
Soviet Union, yes. The United States, yes. The resolution of the Dutch Committee for Palestine was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstained.
אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
The United States recognizes the provisional government as the de facto authority of the new state of Israel.
And next to the State of Israel, there should be also an Arab state. Okay, this is the 29th of November, 1947. Okay, there was a huge debate within the Jewish political sphere. People were against it. People who were in favor. But the leader was Ben-Gurion. He had the political power. And we said, despite the fact that we see it as unjust, okay, that you already took from us the entire eastern part for Jordan. Now you want to take Judea and Samaria. But still, we said yes. We don't want to go to war. We said yes. But the day after, the war started. Shootings in the heart of Israel against buses. People thought, you know what, it's just another circle of violence as we've seen before the war. 1936, 1929, 1920, 1920. But no, it was totally different. The war started a civil war between the Arabs and the Jews. The Arabs lost the war, but at the beginning they had major victories. We have lost 1,000 people from November 29 to March of 1948. Several months, and already 1,000 casualties. It was devastating. We were losing the war. We were losing the war. January, February, March, and there was no victory. Only in April 1948, there was the first major operation called Operation Nachshon, which was the first time in the Zionist history that we actually took land from the Palestinians. And we captured those lands because there were villages were sitting on the roads, and from these villages we were attacked, and we took these lands as part of the war. Okay, as
A
like the
war
history of
that you didn't start, but you
a war
won.
that we didn't start and we didn't want. That is the history. And as you know, in May 1948, that's a whole different chapter. The British are leaving, and at the same moment that they are leaving, Ben Gurion declares the recognition of the state of Israel, and the day after, that's a whole different war, not with the local Arabs, but against 5 Arab armies coming from Syria, from Lebanon, from Iraq, from Morocco, okay, from Egypt. A major war at all fronts, a very difficult war that will end only in 1949. And we have lost 6,000 people, 1% of the population back then. So when we're saying 1948, ethnic cleansing, Nakba, what are you talking about? This was the most difficult war, much more difficult than the current one, with a very small army, very small, not organized. So that is their history. Now, many of the Arabs who lived here, their leaders told them, leave, we will destroy the Jews, and then you can go back. That was the message from Arab leaders. And as you know, many Arabs fled from the battles to Jordan, Lebanon, Gaza, etc., etc. And this is the basic history of the conflict. And as you know, the next stages are much more known, much more discussed. The establishment of the PLO during the early 60s. And it's the same up till now. And I think one thing that I want to capture in the few minutes that we have is to understand the DNA of the Palestinian national identity. As we've learned, the Palestinian national identity is based on rejection and opposing the Zionist Jewish national identity. Okay, Zionism is Jewish nationalism. That's our national movement. It got nothing to do with the Palestinians. We have quite a longer history. But when you're speaking with Palestinians, and I will just tell you a little story. Before I was in politics, I was an educator, and I took the students to a conversation with young Palestinian leaders in a university in Haifa in Israel, not in Judea and Samaria, Haifa. And so I was asking them a question. I said, what is like the defining moment of Palestinian identity? They answered there were 5. The Nakba, meaning 1948, the war, they have lost the war, it was a disaster, the Nakba. Okay. What's the next moment, defining moment for Palestinian national identity? Immediately they say the Nahsa. What is Nahsa? 1967, they have lost Judea and Samaria, Jerusalem, etc. Okay? And then what? Yawm al-Arab, clashes between Arabs in the Galil, north of Israel, the authorities about lands that were taken to create new villages, roads, etc. And then I said to them, look, do you recognize that your entire national identity is based on the war with Israel? If you take the war against the state of Israel from the Palestinian identity, there is no Palestinian identity. The Palestinian identity is aimed and designed to destroy the Jewish national home because of religious motives, because of Arab national motives, and also because of local new Palestinian national components. That is the story. And therefore, there can be no peace when this is your identity. Because if your identity is based on denying our rights to live in Tel Aviv, not in Judea and Samaria, to live in Haifa, not in Gaza. So there is no middle ground.
So if I can sum that up in one quick line, you're saying they want to exist to ensure you cease to exist. That's the sole motivating factor.
That is the one goal of the Palestinian national movement, and there is no other. And therefore, every time when they were offered to create a state, 1948, the Oslo agreements, you had Ehud Barak, you had Ehud Olmert, all of them, they offered 80 to 90% of Judea and Samaria to have a Palestinian state. They never agreed. And we need to be very...
So that wasn't what they wanted.
Yeah, it's not what they wanted. And, you know, their main theme is the right to return. Okay, Hak el Auda, it's called in Arabic, Zchut Shiva in Hebrew. They want to return to Haifa, Yafo, Akkad. These are their songs, their motives. There is no room for a Jewish state. And that is the roots of the conflict. And unfortunately, so many people, they never open the books and learn. And I hope that this conversation will encourage young men and women to go and maybe to have a better understanding of this conflict. And I wish we will have peace, as we know, as a nation. From the very beginning, we did not seek war with anyone, and we are now in the middle of a very difficult war, and I'm sure we are going to win. We have no other choice. We have children to raise.
Absolutely, you do. Minister, thank you so much. Even for me, since October 7, someone who I feel like this is my entire existence is dedicated to this issue.
We feel that too, Erin,
and
I want to take the opportunity to say thank you for what you're doing for Israel. Thank you.
You shouldn't have to thank me. It should be the normal reaction. But I've learnt today, and I thank you so very much. And again, if you're watching and listening to this, or if you're someone who's not particularly sympathetic to the cause, go look it up yourself. It's facts that the minister has shared, not Israel's version of events or anything
version.
like that.
By the way, I don't think there is versions in history. There are facts.
There's not.
Go and check the facts.
Minister, thank you so very much, and I'd love to get you on another date as well, but I really appreciate you giving us an incredible history of the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
And that's key, isn't it? He's so good. He's so impressive. But right at the end there, that insight into the mindset of these people is so key. And it doesn't mean that it can't change or that it won't change, but what it does is reiterate how big this news is, how big this attempt at peace is, with the buy-in of all of those other nations who, let's be honest, they don't act in good faith. They harbour terrorists. They've financially supported the terrorism that's responsible for the deaths of so many in Israel, the West, and all around the world. But their buy-in is crucial and it is required. And the kind of approach that is needed to ensure Gaza does not continue in this same cycle of violence, that children are not born and the first thing they're told is kill Israelis, kill Jews. That's why this is such a big deal, because this is not a normal enemy. This is not the kind of enemy that most other people in the world deal with. It is an almost unimaginable enemy, a people so indoctrinated with hate that the killing of innocent children is justified in their minds as an act of good. That is what they are dealing with. So I have hope. I have genuine hope. And I hope you do too. And I hope that hope is rewarded. But of course, we have been let down many times before in this space. Let's see what tomorrow brings, my friends. Thank you so, so much. Thank you for your patience with my handheld camera, with my slight whispering, not to wake my beautiful little girl who's, gosh, I'm the most blessed mother in the world. She is so divine and such a fiery, passionate little girl as well. And anytime this space gets hard, I look at her and I think it is worth it 1,000,000 times over. And I know you can all relate to why we all fight for all that is good in the world, for Western values, for democracy, for freedom, for peace, because it matters to them and they deserve it. And children born into Gaza deserve it as well. They deserve it. Every child born deserves a chance at a life that is wholesome, that is good. And this is what this deal can deliver to children in Israel, to children in Gaza, to children all over the world. Because as we know, this kind of evil that exists in Gaza at the moment doesn't confine itself to Gaza, and we are all under threat from it. So fixing that problem will go a hell of a long way to fixing so many other problems as well. I'll see you all tomorrow. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Erin Molan Show. And tomorrow I'll try and do the show from outside. It's early morning, so it's a little bit too dark, but I'll try and film a little bit later so you can see some of the beautiful scenery that I've got here on this amazing trip to Europe, my first time. Absolutely beautiful. Again, love you all. Thank you so much. Share this episode with people who might not understand, and help them understand. I think that's the greatest thing that we can all do right now, is to help people understand without judgment, with kindness, just help them understand. Take care. Bye.